Hey, it's Steve from B&M Racing. Today we're in the shop. We got our 2016 Jeep Wrangler JK. We're going to get ready to remove that stock shifter. Those things have always had a common problem of popping out of gear on rough terrain or on the trails. So we're going to remove that shifter and put in the B&M Precision SportShifter. So let's get started. The tools for the job are a pair of safety glasses, a rubber mallet, a 3/4 ratchet or a 3/4 impact gun, a 3/4 extension, 18mm impact socket, 18mm wrench, 3H drive ratchet, 3H drive Torx T45 socket, 1/4 inch drive ratchet, 1/4 inch drive extension, a 1/4 inch drive T30 Torx, plastic pry tool, X-Acto knife, and a pen. We're going to start with the disassembly of the stock manual shifter. So we're going to start with the interior side here. We're going to basically remove this center console, remove the stock knob off the transfer case and off the shifter, and then expose the shifter down below. So first we're going to start actually by lifting up this console. And the reason for this is you want to be able to pull up this e-brake handle at the highest point possible. Okay. Next we're going to put the transfer case down in neutral. And then you want to make sure your shifter is in neutral. So we're going to go ahead and start with a little pry tool here. We're going to pry this bottom collar off. Okay. Now your shifter knob will just pull off. Same with this transfer case one here. We're going to pry the bottom collar off. Okay. And this one will just pull right off. Okay. Next, we're going to basically grab the console here by the cup holder and just pull straight up. Now basically you're going to have to kind of just tilt it at an angle and then pull it up and out of the way. Okay, so next we're going to take off this square little nut here. Basically it just unscrews, and then we'll take this isolator boot off. Now be careful, this is really thin metal and it's really sharp. Okay. Now this little boot, it's got some clips in it. It just clips in place, so you're going to have to kind of pull up on it. Okay. Okay, next with our ratchet and our Torx here, we're going to basically unscrew this bolt right here, and then the stock handle will come off. Okay. Okay. So there's your stock shifter handle. All right. Next, we have to go down below, and we're going to have to drop the transmission crossmember and drop the gas tank so we can drop the transmission down. When we drop the transmission down, we'll be able to get the isolator boot off, and then we'll expose the 4 bolts. And then we have to go back into the interior side here and undo those 4 bolts. So let's get underneath the vehicle now. Okay, we're underneath our Jeep right now. We're ready to go ahead and start removing the skid plate right here on the transfer case. Basically got a bolt right here on the frame. You got a bolt over here that's next to the gas tank, and then you got 2 more right here on the cross member. So go ahead and get started on removing these bolts. Okay, next we're going to go ahead and drop down the gas tank. There is 8 bolts to hold on the gas tank. We're going to remove 6 of the 8 bolts. Now on the older models, you do not need to drop the gas tank. The reason that we have to drop the gas tank here on this newer Jeep JK is that there's 2 bolts that are on the gas tank that are attached to the cross member, and then also we have to get a tool back here to remove the 2 cross member bolts. So we're going to go ahead and start with removing these 2 bolts. Then we got a bolt right here, a bolt across, and then we got another bolt right here, and then got another bolt right across from that, and then we got the 2 back bolts. Now the 2 back bolts, we're going to go ahead and just loosen them. We're going to allow it to actually hinge down a little bit, and it'll be enough to just drop down this cross member. So we're going to go ahead and get started with removing these 2 front bolts. Okay, we got 6 of the 8 bolts removed from our gas tank. We left these 2 back bolts on. We loosened them up though. Now we're ready to go ahead and drop this front part of the gas tank. We need to drop this front part down at least 4 to 5 inches. Okay. Okay, next we're going to go ahead and lower down the transmission crossmember. We're going to leave it attached to the transmission. So all we're going to do is remove these two bolts and then remove these two bolts with the jack supported right here in the center. We're going to go ahead and lower this crossmember slash the transmission and lower down as far as it can go, which is only about 4 to 5 inches. Okay, got our last bolt out. Now we're ready to go ahead and lower the crossmember slash the transmission down. So we'll go ahead and just slowly lower it down. Now you may need to take a rubber mallet and just slightly tap it down so you can just get it off the frame. Okay, we got our transmission crossmember drop down. You can see here we got our 3 to 4 inches. Next, now since the transmission is dropped down, we're going to reach up to the top of the transmission by the shifter, and then there is basically a foam isolator that's around the shifter. You have to basically push and feed it through the hole so it comes out the interior side. So we're going to go ahead and start from the bottom here, and we're going to start kind of towards the firewall, and we're going to take our hands and just basically just push that foam isolator through the hole and try to get majority through the hole, and then we'll go back up into the interior side and pull it the rest of the way out. All right, we're gonna start from the firewall side. Be careful of the foam isolator. If you do rip it, it is inexpensive to replace. Keep pushing this isolator donut through this hole on the interior. Okay, I got our isolator donut pretty much pushed through the hole on the interior side. So now I'm gonna go ahead and raise up the transmission crossmember. I'm gonna put a bolt, one on each side, just to hold it in place. And then next we're gonna go ahead and do the same thing with the gas tank. Okay, now we got our transmission crossmember back in place. We just put one bolt on each side and just hand tighten them. The gas tank, we put 3 bolts in and we just basically snugged them up just to hold it in place. So now we're ready to go ahead and go down with the vehicle. From the interior side, we're going to basically pull out the donut isolator that's around the shifter. We're going to pull it out, and once you pull that out, it's going to expose the 4 bolts of the stock shifter. Then we're going to undo those 4 bolts and then pull the stock shifter out from the interior side. So let's go down with the vehicle. Okay, we're back on the interior side of the vehicle. We're going to go ahead and pull the shifter isolator out the rest of the way. We started it from the bottom side and basically pushed it up through the hole, just kind of working our way slowly around it. So we're going to go ahead and pull the rest of the way out. Okay, so we got our shifter isolator out right now. We're going to have to modify this later, so we're going to go ahead and set this aside. Now with this out of the way, the 4 bolts for the shifter are exposed. So we're going to go ahead and remove those 4 bolts. Okay, we're going to take out these 4 bolts to hold the stock shifter on. Now we're just going to pick up on the shifter, and it should come right out. Okay, we got our stock Jeep Wrangler shifter out of the vehicle. Now we're going to go ahead and clean the surface down below, and then we're ready to go ahead and put on the new B&M shifter. So next we're going to have to modify the shifter isolator donut. Basically what this does is keep from debris or any water getting inside the interior of the vehicle. So we're going to have to modify the opening to make it fit the new B&M Precision SportShifter. Now you can notice on the stock Jeep Wrangler shifter, the breather is up here, and then here is the breather on the B&M Precision SportShifter. So you're going to have to make sure that you have this clocked in the right position. So this basically, this little archway right here, this is to allow for the breather. All right, we're going to go ahead and modify the opening on the isolator. So we're going to take the shifter. We're going to make sure where the breather is. You see there's the archway right there. We're going to drop this down so it pretty much lines up. Now with the Sharpie, we're going to go ahead and just basically trace out the outer perimeter of the shifter. Okay, so we got our isolator traced out. Now we're going to go ahead and cut this out so it fits the new shifter. We want to make sure this fits nice and tight. So actually I would cut the hole a little bit smaller and then trim it to fit as needed, because you want this a nice tight fit. Again, this is going to help keep any kind of water or any mud or any kind of debris getting inside the interior. So I'm going to actually cut a little bit smaller. I'm going to cut a little bit inside this black line. Okay, so we got our isolator cut. We're gonna go ahead and test fit it now on the B&M shifter. Again, this is the outer perimeter of the B&M shifter. We want to actually go a little bit on the inside of it because we want it to be a nice tight fit. And then plus when you slide this down over the shifter, we wanted to catch the edge of the shifter all the way around. So we're gonna go ahead and slide it on here. Okay, so we got our isolator over our shifter here. We can see it's a nice tight fit. Now, again, this is the outer perimeter of the B&M shifter. We want a little bit on the inside of it because we want to make it a nice tight fit, and we want the isolator to rest on the corner edges of the base of the shifter. So you can see it's not past the shifter, it's sitting right on that edge. So this is a perfect, nice, tight fit. You can see the breather's got no restriction. Okay, we're ready to put the shifter back in the vehicle. We're gonna go ahead and bolt it down. Once we bolt it down, then we're gonna go ahead and take the isolator and start feeding it through the interior side, back through the transmission hole. We gotta start putting it around the shifter, but we can't finish putting it all the way down until we go underneath the vehicle, drop that crossmember again, and drop that gas tank, and then finish pulling it through. Okay, so we got our shifter here. We're gonna make sure that our base down there is nice and clean. Then we're gonna go ahead and put some black silicone sealer onto the shifter here. And then we're going to put it in place and bolt it down. Now the shifter here has these little guide pins, and basically will go into the holes and basically guide the shifter into the correct position it needs to be. So we'll go ahead and start putting a nice even coat. Okay, we got our silicone sealer on. We're going to go ahead and just drop this in place. Okay, we got the new B&M Precision SportShifter installed. Now we're ready to go ahead and get that foam isolator and start the process of getting it around the shifter. Okay, we got it started. Now we need to go down below, drop the transmission, drop that gas tank, and then finish pushing this the rest of the way down. Pulling the isolator down. You may need an extra hand to have someone up there maybe help. You can pull it through. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and button up the crossmember here and the gas tank, put all the bolts back in, tighten them all down really tight, and then we'll go back into the interior side and finish the installation. Okay, so we got our trans mount back in place. We got our gas tank back in place. We're gonna go ahead and put on the skid plate for the transfer case here. Okay, so we got everything securely tightened down here. We're ready to go back into the interior side and finish the installation. Okay, we're on the interior side. We got the B&M Precision SportShifter installed with that foam isolator. It's got a nice tight fit. Now we're ready to go ahead and put on the stick. Okay, next we're gonna go ahead and put on the dust boot now over the shifter stick. Okay, this guy's gonna go ahead and just snap in place. Just press down. And now we're gonna go ahead and put on the square retainer nut. Okay, now we're ready to go ahead and put the center console back on. Again, make sure your shifter is in neutral. The transfer case here is in neutral. And then we'll go ahead and slide this back in. Okay, now make sure you snap it down by the cup holders. Snap down the front. Okay, now we're going to put the knobs on. We're going to go ahead and slide these collars on first. Now the shift knob will just snap back down. And you slide the collar in to lock it in place. Same with the transfer case knob. Slide it down, it'll snap in place. And we'll put the collar on. Okay, I've got this thing all buttoned up. Man, these gears feel nice and firm now. Way more accurate going in each gear. So much better than that stock shifter we had. Okay, that concludes our installation on our B&M Precision SportShifter for the Jeep JK. Installation time was roughly about 4 hours. Thanks for watching, and be sure to subscribe to our B&M YouTube channel, and don't forget to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter.